Now may I please draw your attention to the rear of the room and ask you to join me in welcoming Interfaith Works President and CEO Beth Broadway and Board Chair Casey Johnson. They are joined by leaders of our many faith communities represented on the Interfaith Works Roundtable, along with event honorary co-chairs Mariam and Paul Wassman, representing the Mark and Mariam Wassman family and tonight's honorees. Join me again in honoring these individuals. We're very honored to have Bishop Douglas Lucia, Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Syracuse, to offer our opening prayer. Bishop Lucia. Just a moment. Okay.
Let us pray. Blessed are you, Lord God of all creation, for through your goodness you gather us this night as we celebrate democracy in action. We ask your blessing upon all those who have gathered here and upon our honorees in a particular way, that our loving God will continue to help us on our journey of faith, as together we seek to share with those around us the common good, to continue to build up one another, to continue to make our world a world of peace, of justice and love. We thank you for the food that sustains us and that will nourish us this evening. And we are ever mindful, Lord, of the continuing struggle that we have to care for our neighbor, to reach out, and not to let fear tear us apart. Again, we thank you for those who have been leaders of such faith in our community, especially tonight, how our honorees have been women and men of action. Continue to instill in our hearts a great desire for that action, so that in all that we say, in all that we do, we may continue to give glory and honor to you, O God, and that we may bless you as your creation. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Mariam El-Hindi Wassman and her son, Paul Wassman, representing the Mark and Mariam Wassman family, this evening's presenting sponsors. Mariam and her family have been supporters of Interfaith Works and its mission to affirm the dignity of all people in all faiths for many, many years. She says she herself grew up interfaith, as her parents, Ahmed and Elizabeth El-Hindi had an interfaith marriage themselves. Her family has a strong belief in the power of dialogue, naming the Center for Dialogue and Action at InterFaith Works and the Ahmed and Elizabeth El-Hindi Center for Dialogue, and being active in its bridge building work. Mariam also served on InterFaith Works' Board of Directors and as co-chair of InterFaith Works' successful capital campaign to purchase and renovate its home on James Street. That was a milestone. Congratulations. In her professional life, Mariam serves as Chief Financial Officer of Filter Tech U.S. Centrifuge, the family's business. Paul Wassman is a director at the Opinion Dynamics Corporation, where he conducts program evaluation and market research to support energy efficiency and renewable energy programs. There's going to be a quiz, so take notes here. Paul is a graduate of Hobart and William Smith Colleges and the Maxwell School of Citizenship at Syracuse University. Please join me in welcoming to the podium and thanking Mariam and Paul Wassman.
On behalf of my parents, Mark and Mariam, my siblings, Elizabeth, John, Mark, and Peter, and our extended family, thank you for being with us this evening.
While InterFaith works to affirm dignity of every person through its mission, it is notable that all of you have supported InterFaith through some very trying times these past few years, and you have worked to affirm its mission. The people we honor tonight represent our community in the very best of ways. It's my family's honor tonight to take part in their recognition.
Democracy. It's not always easy. It takes a lot of energy and time to cultivate. It requires more of its constituents than other forms of governance. That each of us take part in something and believe in something larger than ourselves. Yep, it's messy, it's complicated, but when done right, democracy is a mechanism by which we can truly affirm the dignity of each person. Tonight we celebrate individuals that have put in that hard work and continue to do so. Thank you to all of our esteemed leaders for your commitment to fostering democratic values, and thanks to everyone who joined with us tonight to honor that commitment.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce InterFaith Works Board Chair Casey Johnson, who will say a few words of thanks to those who have contributed to the success of tonight's dinner, many of you. Casey?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Karen said, I'm Casey Johnson, and I serve as chair of InterFaith Works Board of Directors. First of all, we want to thank Karen Franklin King, this evening's MC. Karen is a familiar face and voice in Central New York's broadcast community and has been inducted into the Syracuse Press Club's Hall of Fame. She is also an actress, singer, motivational speaker, and public relations consultant. Is there anything you don't do? A tireless volunteer who considers herself a doer, Karen has a long-standing partnership with InterFaith Works that dates back to the 1980s. For nearly 20 years, she has hosted the Center for Dialogue's Duck Race to End Racism and has a long history of activism in civil rights, education, and social justice issues. We are very pleased to have Karen with us this evening. Before I introduce the InterFaith Works board and staff, let me give this context. InterFaith Works is strong, and it is expanding to meet the current and future needs of our community. We are 45 years strong, and InterFaith Works is ready for the next 45 years. Interfaith Works President Beth Broadway will be sharing the details during her address, and I invite you to take a look at the publication that was sitting on your chair when you got here and make sure she doesn't miss anything. She has to do it in 10 minutes or less, so it's going to be a race. Tonight's theme is democracy in action. Democracy is often reduced to just the action of voting, but that vital act of voting requires informed citizens. While you listen to Beth's address, consider how much of the work the agency does to support informed and engaged citizens. Consider how the work of each tonight's honorees supports informed and engaged citizens. Supporting a community of these informed and engaged citizens is how Interfaith Works continually seeks to advance democratic freedoms, basic human rights, and affirm the dignity of all people. This is democracy in action. And your commitment to our mission to affirm the dignity of each person in every faith tradition, build racial and religious equity, and create understanding is evidenced by your attendance this evening. So thank you all for coming. I am proud to say that everyone who is part of Interfaith Works, our board, roundtable of faith leaders, staff, and volunteers, works toward tonight's theme, Democracy in Action, every day. Would my fellow Interfaith Works board members please stand? We want to recognize your dedication to Interfaith Works and its mission. They probably didn't recognize me without a Zoom screen around my head tonight. For the past year and a half, that's how we've been meeting. An event such as this would not be possible without the assistance of many, many dedicated people who are listed in your program. From members of the ILET Honoree Selection Committee to the Interfaith Works staff members who have many roles this evening, their contributions are immeasurable. So thank you all for being here tonight. We'd also like to thank those who have supported this event through sponsorships, donations, and by advertising in the program. Please join me in a round of applause to thank all of them. I would now like to introduce Interfaith Works President and CEO Beth A. Broadway. Beth joined Interfaith Works in 1995 to work with the community-wide Dialogue to End Racism. She became director of the program in 2001, a position she held until she became president of the agency in 2010. Beth has been recognized by Everyday Democracy with the Iker Leadership in Democracy Award. The Iker Award recognizes Beth's decades-long career as a force for justice, raising voice to issues of oppression and advancing racial and social equity through the process of dialogue and action. Through her leadership, Interfaith Works continues to excel, meeting the needs of its clients, serving the broader community, and building bridges of understanding. Beth?
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Mariam and Paul and the Mariam and Mark Wassman family for being our honorary chairs of this year's event, which was supposed to happen last year. Who knew? But here we are all together tonight, the first event of the OCC arena since COVID shut it all down. So we're all here together, first time. I wanted to start tonight by having you just quickly meet the staff of Interfaith Works. We're about 40 plus strong, and I wonder if our staff who were able to come tonight could please stand. I want my remarks tonight to be dedicated to you because you've done so much to serve this community during COVID-19. And I also wanted to give a special shout out to our senior staff and to our recently promoted vice presidents, Patty Riddell and Olive Sapuma. So these are some of our staff, and this is dedicated, my remarks are to you and all you've done. Thank you so much. So up on the screen, this is a picture of my grandmother, Agnes Petronella Johansson, on the day that she left Sweden to emigrate to the United States. She was 19 years old, didn't speak a word of English, the oldest of 13 children, and she was coming to escape poverty and to create a life for herself with my grandfather. Hers is the story of many of our ancestors. My grandmother's journey was mostly a choice. For others, the journey here began because of enslavement, or a fear that their lives would not be kept whole and had to escape conditions that were untenable, or to find a better life for their children. We see that happening all over the world today. The myth, though, that this was an empty land accompanied many of our ancestors, and we now acknowledge America is built on land that belonged to peoples and tribes who were here for thousands of years. These situations created a democracy that sits uneasily on top of enslavement and near genocide. And we dearly love that we are a democratic nation. And we are deeply unsettled by the unfairness and the strains across our past and into our present. And that's why democracy is not a thing, as Paul said. Democracy is a gift that we give to each other that is only sustained through civic engagement by people from all walks of life who will show up to wrestle with one another to find our common values and our common ground on which we can stand together. So we chose the theme of democracy in action 2 years ago, before the presidential and mayoral elections, before George Floyd was killed, before the new Black Lives Matter movement, before COVID-19 ravaged the planet. In 2018, before all of these things happened, the United States democracy fell off of the Democracy Index's functioning list. It was reclassified as a flawed democracy by the international institutions that study voting, study trust in public institutions, trust in elections, civic participation, and human rights. So as a democracy-building organization, InterFaith Works did not like this news. We do not want to be on the flawed democracy list. And we wanted our annual awards to reflect the work of so many across our community who are dedicated to democracy building. A functioning democracy is a great puzzle with many pieces. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that our current democracy and how our government is set up is drawn from the Haudenosaunee peoples. We learned a great deal from them and still have much to learn from them. A functioning democracy is filled with voting and free elections, people able to vote freely. It's filled with trusted institutions like elected officials, the courts, the police, the schools, the libraries, and a free press that serves all people. A functioning democracy is made up of a just and inclusive society that is working to create human rights for all of us, with freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the right to advocate for change. Civic engagement and service to one another are the final hallmarks of what it is to have a functioning democracy. And what kind of people make it all work? I have a great slide of all these different kinds of people. People with empathy, people with kindness, even in the face of disagreement, people who are willing to be changed by what they hear, people with moral courage, people who affirm the dignity of all, people who show up, do the work, and don't ever give up. InterFaith Works believes all that is wrong with America can be repaired by all that is right with America. Our honorees tonight are those repairmen and repairwomen, people who have dedicated themselves to making things right. Tonight we honor our mayor, whose inclusive administration and practices are second to none. I just saw him come in. I'm glad you heard me say that, because I believe that about you. Our honorees include 2 of the many faith leaders who work in and out of their houses. a judge who was greatly admired and enhanced the court's ability to serve, NAACP activists who spent their lives building the access to the vote, a tireless worker who believes in education for all, and an investigative journalist who has told the truth again and again. All have exhibited the values and the grit and the pieces that it takes to build a healthy democracy. We are grateful to them all for accepting this honor and for the work they have done on behalf of all of us here. InterFaith Works is working very hard to exemplify all of these values. And tonight, as we celebrate democracy, we also celebrate the 45th anniversary of this agency's service to CNY. We have built an inner strength over these last 5 tumultuous years, strength that has given us a greater ability to serve, deeper connections across this whole community, and a broader reach for our work. We have upgraded our mission to more explicitly identify the key pillars of why we were founded in 1976, to end racism and to affirm religious equity while building bridges among all of us. In your program, you're going to find a special insert. It looks like this, with our anniversary balloons on it. And it describes our future, how we are building our capacity so that we can continue to act on the greatest human service and social justice issues of the day. We are building resilience to weather the changing nature of racism and refugee worlds, and we hope you will take this document home and call us if you feel compelled so that you can work with us on this great mission. In addition to our agency's anniversary, each of our programs is also celebrating a very important anniversary this year. This is the 40th anniversary of the Center for New Americans, and this center is now in a major growth mode, building back our capacity to settle refugees in Syracuse. This month, we are preparing to settle Afghani refugees and are gratified that this community has stepped up to the recent crisis, offering housing, clothing, funds, furniture, employment, and friendship for the effort. Just as a quick update, as of this last count, we have about 123,000 Afghanis that have been rescued by the United States. They will need to be quarantined, vaccinated, and vetted, and many of them are now at U.S. military bases in Virginia and Texas, awaiting their assignment to a home city like ours. During the last 5 years when resettlement work was cut back, we built the post-resettlement programming and now have citizenship and immigration programs, family wellness programs, including mental health programming and medical navigation services, and very innovative ways to help people with employment. All of that will remain intact, that post-resettlement work, while we prepare to settle 700 plus new people from Afghanistan and from many other countries where war and terrorism and dire need have forced people to flee. Our senior services program has been serving the needs of isolated elders for 35 years through its Senior Companion program, helping people stay socially engaged and living in their homes for as long as possible. We recently broadened this work this year into Oswego County, doubling the number of people that we will be able to serve. We built similar programs in area nursing homes where 60% of the residents do not have an outside visitor, which they will begin to have through InterFaith Works. You can clap for that. That's a good thing. We also have a program to address the conversational needs of elder refugees, who are often the most forgotten refugees. And a major effort has been started to increase services for elders of color, and it's coming to fruition across all the services. All of these programs have been sustained, especially during the difficult time of the COVID pandemic. Imagine what your life would be like if you did not know how to use a computer or did not have a smartphone during this crisis. As we continue to face the COVID pandemic, our staff is purchasing and teaching elders and refugees how to use this smart technology so they can order groceries, call their families, and maintain human contact. The staff and volunteers have found a kind of nimbleness in this time of crisis that has enabled us to provide food and milk and personal protection equipment and companionship across a huge digital divide. They've done a tremendous job. And then finally, our Ahmed and Elizabeth El-Hindi Center for Dialogue and Action is celebrating its 25th year. You may notice that it has a new name, the Ahmed and Elizabeth El-Hindi Center for Dialogue and Action, because we merged our dialogue work with our interfaith action work. And now we're going to have these intentional spaces where we can hear the different points of view, and you're going to hear points of view different from your own, and really to be changed by what we hear from each other. The center helps us find solutions to some of the most difficult problems that our nation is facing and that our own community is facing. And I read recently that when you split the truth in half, you only have 2 half-truths. And this has been evident in Syracuse, and we want to thank Syracuse University and our city and suburban school-based dialogues and our police community dialogue efforts with police officers and community residents who courageously come together to learn and appreciate the challenges that crime, safety, racism, misunderstandings, and bias affect, and how that affects our work on all of these institutions. We're very grateful to Chancellor Kent Severud, to Police Chief Kenton Buckler and his team of officers, and to all the school superintendents who have made this work a priority. It's such an important tool in our democracy. And we are field testing a brand new dialogue called Taking Action Against Racism for workplaces, and this is with the help of KeyBank. So during COVID, we have established 20 new food pantries in faith communities across Syracuse's inner city, and through the Campaign for Love, a project of the Roundtable of Faith Leaders, we have also built out a chicken coop at the Onondaga Nation farm so that eggs can be given to elders and families living on the nation. This came about because we said to Frida Jacques, we would like to make an offering of friendship. What would you like? And she said, I would like a chicken coop. And so we did. Got to be careful when you're with Frida. She'll get you going. We've also, through the Campaign for Love and the Roundtable of Faith Leaders, built a community garden at the Apostolic Church of Jesus Christ to promote healthful eating for the city's near South Side residents. So there's a lot going on. I could say more and more. But I'll end with this, that I hope these snapshots of the work that we're doing inspire you to even greater acts of love and compassion and equity building in your own lives and in your own institutions. As humans, we have the ability to tap into the healing power of love, to forgive, to care for one another on behalf of our community and all its people. And we thank each and every one of you for helping Interfaith Works become what our founders wanted, a force for justice and service. And here is to the next 45 years together.
Hello, everybody. We're not interrupting your dinner. That was not prepared, but I made sure I took permission for sure. This is exactly right now is a prayer time for Muslims. And we pray anywhere, and we can even pray later because there is an event. But I thought of, while you're eating, sharing a call to prayer in Arabic. My friend, Dr. Assam Kanaan, he's a board member of the Islamic Society, and he will call the prayer in Arabic, which is translates as, God is great, there is no God but one, Mohammed is his messenger, come to pray, come to success, and then God is great, and there is no God but one. And thank you for allowing us to call the prayer in Arabic here. تفضل أخي عصام.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
I'd like to invite our honorees, Dan Cummings, Imam Mohammed Al-Fiki, Pastor Darren Jaime, the Honorable Van Robinson and Linda Brown Robinson, Elaine Rubinstein, Susan Tormey, and the Honorable Ben Walsh, as well as Mariam and Paul Wassman and Beth Broadway to join me on stage. I'd also invite those who will be presenting our honorees with their awards, Amini Audi, Michael Balanoff, Alberto Bianchetti, William Byrne, Bishop Douglas Lucia, Bishop Colette Matthews Carter, and Dr. Baljinder Singh to please come forward. Let's give them another round of applause now that they're up here. Mariam and Paul Wassman, will you kindly introduce tonight's honorees so that we may present them with their awards? And then Pastor Darren Jaime, pastor of the People's AME Zion Church, will represent all of our honorees in his remarks at the conclusion of this ceremony.
Thank you. Presenting the Interfaith Leadership Award to Dan Cummings is Bishop Douglas Lucia, representing the Roman Catholic Diocese of Syracuse.
Sorry.
Dan Cummings joined our community in 1977 as a young reporter and has grown into one of Central New York's most trusted and respected broadcasters. Dan is managing editor, co-anchor, and reporter at WSYR's Morning and Noon News. He's also seen every week on Newsmakers with Dan Cummings, the station's public affairs program. He has been honored with a regional Arthur R. Murrow Award by the New York State Broadcasters Association and appears on the Syracuse Press Club's wall of distinction. Dan sees his work as a sacred trust, giving people the information they need to get involved and make sound decisions in their own lives to preserve and protect democracy. A man of faith, Dan believes that we are all born in the image and likeness of our Creator, and the spark of divinity is within all of us. For his contributions in keeping our community informed through his trusted reporting, helping us all make sound decisions that lead to a strong democracy, and reminding us that the divine resides in each and every one of us, we recognize Dan Cummings tonight.
Presenting the Interfaith Leadership Award to Imam Mohammed Al-Fiki is Dr. Baljinder Singh of the Sikhs Foundation of Syracuse.
Thank you. Muhammad Al-Fiki is the Imam of Islamic Society of Central New York, arriving in Syracuse in 2017. Shortly after his arrival, he joined others at Syracuse Hancock Airport to protest the executive order that essentially banned Muslims from coming to the United States. If faith leaders keep a low profile, then we shouldn't ask others to stand up for what they believe is right, he reasoned. Imam Al-Fiki is deeply committed to varying needs of his community and recently completing his MA in Farr College Department of Marriage and Family Therapy at SU. He encourages his community to be involved, volunteer, and vote. Everybody should vote, everybody's vote should count, and everyone should be heard, he believes. A member of Interfaith Works Roundtable of Faith Leaders, he appreciates his fellow faith leaders who come together to have constructive dialogue and work together to better our community. I believe mankind is inherently honorable, he says, for his commitment to serving his community, leading by example, and seeing the best in all of us. We celebrate Imam Muhammad Al-Fiki this evening.
Presenting the Interfaith Leadership Award to Pastor Darren Jaime is Alberto Bianchetti of National Grid.
National Grid is grateful for the opportunity to be a longtime sponsor and supporter of the work of Interfaith Works and the Duck Race. Pastor Darren Jaime agrees with Interfaith Works that affirming dignity means letting people know that they matter and that their life makes a difference regardless of race, creed, or economic status. The mission of the People's Church, Pastor Jaime says, is to work to create a healthy neighborhood. Under his leadership, the church has become a hub of community and economic development, creating small businesses, and will soon launch a culinary arts training program and cafe. The church also has a full menu of service programs, including backpack giveaways and free children's haircuts. Pastor Jaime believes such activities put democracy in action, creating a better community one block at a time. Nationally, the People's AME Zion Church travels to Flint, Michigan, where members provide ongoing support in the face of the water crisis. Mission work has taken Pastor Jaime to such places as the Bahamas, Jamaica, Great Britain, and Africa. Pastor Jaime also gives voice to the voiceless through his broadcast work, where he hosts a weekly cable television program in the Bronx. I'm going to take a privilege to go off script for a minute to say that I met Pastor Jaime for the first time this evening, but I got to know him this weekend by watching his service on the church's Facebook channel. And Pastor Jaime's going to do a little preaching later on, and we will all be the better for that. At the end of his Facebook presentation, when he shared the intentions of his congregation to the people watching, he apologized to his congregation because his cell phone wasn't working. And he asked them to pray for AT&T. Any pastor that offers prayers to a utility is a friend of ours. For Pastor Jaime's commitment to putting democracy in action on a local level, as well as his vision of making our country and the world more equitable through mission and example, we recognize him this evening.
Presenting the Interfaith Leadership Award to the Honorable Van Robinson and Linda Brown Robinson is Bishop Colette Matthews Carter, President of the NAACP of Syracuse and Onondaga County, and Director of Interfaith Works El Hindi Center for Dialogue and Action.
The Honorable Van Robinson and Linda Brown Robinson are a force for racial justice in Syracuse. Since they arrived in Syracuse more than 40 years ago, they have worked tirelessly, including launching the local chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People of Syracuse and Onondaga County in 1978. And if you don't mind me adding, as I like to say, the local branch of the NAACP here in Syracuse and Onondaga County is the house that Van and Linda Robinson built. Van and Linda served as president of the organization, with Linda recently being named as the regional director of the Western region of the NAACP. During their lives, they have witnessed and endured racism and discrimination. After facing discrimination in the military, Van was determined to make a difference, getting involved with the Urban League and Interfaith Works before transitioning to elected office, including serving as the president of the Syracuse Common Council. The Robinsons have been long involved with Interfaith Works, with Van also receiving the agency's Racial Justice Award. Linda has been involved for more than 15 years with a particular focus on the Center for Dialogue and Action, including her unwavering commitment to the duck race to end racism and the dialogue process. If we can sit down and discuss why people hold certain beliefs, and then they can hear our side, then perhaps they'll understand us and we'll understand them, Linda says. Van reveres the phrase, e pluribus unum, out of many one, and their lives have been a testament to that credo. And for the Honorable Van Robinson and Linda Brown Robinson's commitment to eradicating racism, serving their community, and personifying democracy in action, we honor them with the Interfaith Leadership Award.
Presenting the Interfaith Leadership Award to Elaine Rubinstein is Michael Balanoff, representing the Jewish Federation of Central New York and the Jewish Community Foundation of Central New York.
Elaine Rubinstein believes democracy is the freedom to have a good education, access to health care, to find employment, and to be part of the government in a democratic way. Elaine has put these beliefs into action throughout her life. She has served on a number of boards, including Interfaith Works, Syracuse Area Middle East Dialogue, otherwise known as SAMED, Krause Hospital, American Friends of the Oasis of Peace in Israel, and the Milton J. Rubinstein Museum of Science and Technology, which you know as MOST, which was named in memory of her beloved husband. When I go to the MOST and see the street lined with school buses, I am just thrilled we are doing our mission, she says. It's the same feeling I get when I walk into InterFaith Works and see the lobby filled with immigrant families from everywhere. I say to myself, we are enabling them to become citizens, learning what they can do to have a job in this community, giving them housing, health care, helping them to be part of the community and part of the economy here. Elaine is committed to InterFaith Works' mission and its dialogue programs. In particular, the more you have the opportunity to listen and understand the cultures of other people, the more you have the opportunity to talk about your own interests, and this makes for democracy, she says. For her lifelong commitment to the principles of democracy, we honor Elaine Rubinstein with the InterFaith Leadership Award this evening.
Accepting the Interfaith Leadership Award on behalf of Judge James Tormey is his wife, Susan Tormey. Presenting the award is William Byrne, a former Interfaith Leadership Award honoree and member of the InterFaith Works Board of Directors.
The Honorable James Tormey loves justice, his family, and Green Hills donuts, especially the Bismarck. Everywhere he went, he brought his wit, a funny story, and Green Hills donuts, says his wife, Sue. Where's Sue? There she is. Okay. Judge Tormey was a much-beloved jurist. He served 19 years as administrative judge for the 5th Judicial District, which encompasses a 6-county area and more than 300 judges and 600 court employees, from the town and village level to the Supreme Court. He believed that the courts should be a place of healing, says Sue. He was committed to fairness and respect for all. He created specialized courts to deal with the specific issues including the opioid crisis, domestic violence, human trafficking, and youthful offenders. He used innovative approaches, including alternative sentencing and community service. Judge Tormey also saw the courts as a way to celebrate democracy in action. His 2 favorite ceremonies to preside over were National Adoption Day, celebrating families adopting children out of the foster care system, and naturalization ceremonies where immigrants came to become citizens. Whenever he received awards, he would say, "This is not my award. This is for the employees who work in this district because they're the ones who are getting the job done," recalls Sue. He was so respected that in the spring of 2020, the Onondaga County Legislature named the city-county criminal courthouse located on South State Street the Honorable James C. Tormey III Criminal Courthouse in his honor, and the dedication of that building was done yesterday. Sue, we would like to also acknowledge that Judge Tormey's colleagues and friends throughout the community have donated $7,350 in his memory to benefit InterFaith Works' Path to Citizenship program. This program helps prepare refugees and immigrants to become U.S. citizens. For his devotion to democracy in action and his desire to make a difference in people's lives throughout our community, we recognize the Honorable James Tormey with the Interfaith Leadership Award this evening.
Presenting the Interfaith Leadership Award to the Honorable Ben Walsh is Amini Audi.
I think we should give Karen a hand for being the greatest sanitizer. Ben Walsh is the city of Syracuse's 54th mayor and a firm believer in democracy in action. In his first 3.5 years as mayor, he has tried to show what democracy in action looks like in the way he governs and in the way he engages with his constituents. I take it very personally and very seriously that as the mayor, I represent everyone, he says, not just those who voted for me, but everyone who resides here, regardless of their gender, race, geography, and citizenship. Mayor Walsh was always drawn to public service. He was very blessed as a child to be surrounded by people who were very active in the community and true believers in what democracy represents. Mayor Walsh's family included elected officials, volunteers, board members, teachers, and medical professionals. All of those functions are critical to a full functioning democracy, and being surrounded by people who were so active in our democracy was inspiring to me, he says. Before being elected mayor, Ben Walsh served for 6 years as the Deputy Commissioner of Neighborhood and Business Development at City Hall, where he played a lead role in the creation of the Greater Syracuse Land Bank and redevelopment of the Hotel Syracuse. Mayor Walsh is currently chair of the Syracuse Urban Renewal Agency and co-chair of the Joint School Construction Board. He formerly served on the boards of the Gifford Foundation and the Good Life Philanthropic Youth Foundation. In 2009, he was named one of Syracuse's 40 Under 40 winners, an award recognizing Central New York professionals and leaders under the age of 40 who exemplify leadership in the community. Commenting on his current role, he says, "As mayor, I want to be judged on my actions and the positive change that I bring to the community." For Mayor Walsh's commitment to democracy in action, inclusion in governing, and commitment to the community, we recognize him with the Interfaith Leadership Award.
Thank you very much.
I have to find the right page, sorry. Please welcome Pastor Darren Jaime, who will give acceptance remarks on behalf of all of our honorees. Pastor Jaime.
She is the queen of sanitizing. Good evening, everybody. Certainly, we want to first, before anything, want to give thanks to Beth Broadway and Interfaith Works and all the wonderful work that they've done to bring us all out tonight. Thank you, Beth. And to my fellow honorees, certainly, I'm humbled, first of all, just to be asked to be honored. And then I got a double honor to be able to represent all of our honorees. You've got some great people here, and anybody could have spoken, but I guess the lot fell on me, but here we are. Allow me to say this, that when we talk about democracy, many of us talk about democracy, but what is really democracy? And when we think about democracy, democracy defined is a system or of government by the whole population or the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. Democracy also is a state that is governed by a democracy. Now, if we look at most of our driver's licenses, I believe that most of our driver's licenses would read that we would actually live in the state of New York. But could it be that also, or many of us, are guilty of living in a state of denial? For any of us to admit and hear the proverbial statement that progress is being made these days is simply bowing out and chasing the low-hanging fruit. At present, while we speak and while we gather here today, there's legislation that's on the books that's designed to take us back retroactively back to years of past and years of struggle. When we look, we can look at democracy, and we understand that democracy means at its lowest common denominator that there's an individual and a corporate responsibility. A corporate responsibility for all, not just for some, but for all. Not for a few, but for all. Not just for 1%, but for all. But for the haves and the have-nots, the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the upper class, the middle class, the low class, and even those who have no class at all. All of our honorees will probably tell you today, and it's honestly true, that I don't think anybody just sets out to win an award. But the common denominator that you can find between all of us as honorees are we're just all committed to doing the work. A difference maker is a difference maker who is willing to make a difference in the society. Democracy starts with the individual person, and then it moves to homes, in schools, in government, in neighborhoods, in community. We could not admit that we are pro-democracy when we have to ask ourselves a few questions. Respectively and reflectively, are we truly pro-democracy? Are we pro-democracy when we willfully tolerate and be passers-by to the blatant and egregious attempt before us to eliminate voting rights and access to polling places for all, simply because some are intimidated and frustrated by the browning of America? Are we truly pro-democracy? Are we pro-democracy and tolerate injustice to occur against our Muslim brothers and sisters simply because of their faith? Are we pro-democracy when we tolerate the desecration of synagogues against our Jewish brothers and sisters simply because we don't disagree or we disagree in biblical and doctrinal faith? Are we pro-democracy when we tolerate children to be whipped away from their families at the border? Are we pro-democracy when we tolerate women who work equally and hard and sometimes even harder than their male counterparts in the workplace, but still have to find a way to earn equal pay? Are we pro-democracy when we hate and have violence carried out against our LGBTQ brothers and sisters simply because of their sexual preference? Are we pro-democracy when we tolerate unarmed black men and women to be choked out and murdered on live TV for the world to see, or to have innocent people shot in the back execution style like prey, only to turn the channel and abdicate our personal responsibility under the delusional guise that this is somebody else's problem? I use the word tolerate this evening in a very special way, because there's a difference between tolerance and acceptance. To tolerate means to allow the existence of. To tolerate means or act or without prohibition or hindrance. Tolerating is optional. But when we speak about accepting means to agree, it means to consent to, it means to accede to. But to accept also has another definition. It means to undertake the duties, the responsibility, and the honors. The recent changes we've seen over the past years through Black Lives Matter or the fight for Afghan refugees is simply because that people have accepted and taken responsibility that democracy matters. Activism calls things to change. And when we really truly change and become that democracy, we can be a better people. I leave with the question today: when it comes to democracy, are we an ally or are we an accomplice? Thank you all.
Thank you, Pastor Jaime. Before we close, I would like to present a token of appreciation to the Mark and Mariam Wassman family for being our presenting sponsors. Mariam, would you please come to the podium? The family's commitment to this evening's event has been exemplary, and we cannot thank you enough.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And we'd also like to thank our friend and supporter and sanitizer, Karen Franklin King, for being our MC this evening.
We have a final, just a final gift to all of you. I was sitting in church the other day, and this song was sung, and I said, "My gosh, that's the theme song for InterFaith Works." And so I reached out to a couple of our pastors, whom I know to have wonderful voices, and I said, "Could you sing this to everybody at the end of our dinner?" And they all said, "Yeah, I think we could do that." So I'm going to ask the Reverend Max Jones to come forward, the Reverend Philip Turner to come forward, the Reverend Dr. Peter Scheidmantel to come forward, Dr. Joan Hilsman to come forward, and my own Philip Rose to come forward. And we have a final song and some pictures to thank you all for coming here tonight and being a part of this wonderful event. We want to thank all of our honorees for saying yes, and all of our presenting sponsors for preparing these beautiful remarks that gave us a picture of why you were chosen. And we just want to thank everybody that's been a part of these 2 years of building back this organization, holding firm and holding on to love during this time of some great challenges. So while our folks are getting their instruments ready to go, we're going to, am I supposed to say anything else, Ms. Sanitizer? Okay. Is she here? Yeah. So while the musicians are ready, I do want to say a final thank you to Onondaga Community College. As I said, this was their first COVID dinner, first use of this space again since we closed everything down a year ago, March. And so we're very grateful to them for helping us to make this such a beautiful event, and especially thanks to our president, Casey Crable, who's been a big supporter. And now I'm going to turn it over to Pete and Max and Phil and Joan.
There is a place for the sadness. Hold on to love. And there is a season for gladness. Hold on to love. When pain and confusion seems endless, hold on to love. We cultivate healing with kindness. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercy overflowing. Hold on to love.
When terror and fear overwhelm us,
hold on to love.
Courage and faith will sustain us.
Hold on to love.
When violence seeks to destroy us, hold on to
love.
Acts of compassion restore us.
Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercies overflowing. Hold on to love. When hatred is used to divide us, hold on to love. Wisdom and truth reunite us. Hold on to love. When prejudice poses as freedom, hold on to love. Dignity means all are welcome. Hold on to love. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercies overflowing. Hold on to love where hope is found. Hold on to love where joy abounds. Hold on to love where grace and mercies overflowing. Hold on to love. Hold on to love. Hold on to love. Amen.
Holding on, okay. Thank you very much for that beautiful performance. A great tune to go home with and to carry on the rest of this year. Hold on to love. Thank you very much for that beautiful performance. Right now, I'd like to bring to the podium Madeline Smith. She will convene the Interfaith Works Roundtable of Faith Leaders. She's the convener for that part of Interfaith Works, and she's representing the Buddhist faith. So, Madeline, if you please come forward to offer your closing prayer.
In gathering together tonight to celebrate democracy and the good qualities of esteemed community leaders, we are creating a powerful source of good or merit. By this merit, may we defeat non-virtue. May all beings be free from suffering and harm. By this merit, may all beings be forever blessed with wisdom and compassion. May we beautify the world with the joyful drum of peace. May the compassionate aspirations of all faith traditions be realized, and may all faith traditions continually thrive and spread in harmony. May all living beings be happy and joyful, and day and night, with good hearts and good mind, may we accomplish the benefit of self and others. Prayer for world peace. In the world in general, and in this nation, may not even the names of disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtuous qualities, merit, and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly arise. Thank you.